Fellas, today we're going to be doing a tier list of WWE wrestlers who have turned into MMA fighters. This is a bit of a weird video because I haven't really done anything regarding the whole WWE. I did a video quite similar to this. It was a tier list of UFC fighters who transitioned to boxing tier list. We're going to be doing basically similar to that, but like I said, WWE wrestlers who in the later of their career turned into UFC fighters or MMA fighters, not UFC. Could have been in the UFC, but MMA fighters. And yeah, please let me know if I missed anybody out. Yeah, I'm not going to be counting Ronda Rousey because, like I said, she only managed to get in the WWE because of UFC. So I'm not really going to be counting people like Ronda Rousey. But anyway, we're going to go in there with the first name, Dave Batista. I'll put Batista. I'll put him in a C tier. He tried it. You've got to give him credit. He did try it. He wasn't necessarily fantastic. He's had one MMA fight and he did win it by TKO in the first round. Yes, it was on an absolute. Right, it was on not even a regional scene. It was back in 2012. It was on some random promotion. They were both probably roided up, and he did win by first round TKO. But the guy that he was fighting was literally just some fat dad. So I can't give him above a C tier. He didn't lose, and he didn't have a horrible career. He gave it a go, and that's why I'm counting him in this list. And I'm going to put him in C tier. Obviously, he didn't have an MMA career like some WWE wrestlers did, so he never really had a career. It was literally just a one fight in 2012, but he gave it a go. He stopped his opponent. Was his opponent some random fat Mexican guy? Yes. Was he in any way, shape or form ready to fight in an MMA fight? No. But Batista managed to stop him in one round. There's not much I can say really. I'm putting him in C tier. Not a good MMA fighter, but he gave it a go and he won, so I'm not going to put him in D tier. Like, D tier is like MMA ruined their career, and then S tier is MMA built their career, or MMA, they had a fantastic MMA career. So that's what I'm kind of basing this off. But anyway, next we're going to go Brock Lesnar. Now, it's got to be an S tier. I mean, he literally became UFC champion. You can't say Brock Lesnar isn't... He had an S tier career from WWE to MMA. You can't say he didn't. He has had the most successful transition from wrestling to MMA. This kind of calls into question, what would happen if Brock Lesnar trained MMA instead of wrestling when he was younger? If you know what I mean. Like, if he just went straight into MMA as a child, how good would he have done? Because he did manage to become a UFC champion after MMA experience. After WWE experience, sorry. That kind of calls into question, what would have happened if he just purely trained MMA his whole life? Because he had a genuine talent for MMA. Some people want to say he's the worst champion in UFC history. Listen, he became champion. How many other WWE wrestlers have become champion? Not much. Obviously, he's got some decent names on there as well. He beat Frank Mir. He finished Frank Mir. He beat Randy Couture. He beat Shane Carwin. Obviously, he lost to Cain Velasquez and Overeem. But those are two of some of the best heavyweights of all time. Like, there's no shame in losing to some of the best heavyweights of all time. But yeah, you've got to give it to Brock Lesnar. He had a successful career. He literally became champion. But like I said, beat Couture, beat Frank Mir. So you've got to give it to him, man. He's had a pretty successful UFC career as well. And even before UFC, he actually had an MMA fight back in 2007 and 2008. Or he tried it, tried the career, but that was when he debuted. And then obviously his last MMA fight was back in 2016. So I'd say his era was around 2007 to 2010. But either way, Brock Lesnar, S tier. Out of all the WWE wrestlers, he's had the best MMA career in my opinion. Then we move on to another fighter. This one, I don't know how to... He's had a decent career, I guess. He's a WWE wrestler who kind of transitioned to MMA. I'm going to put him... I'll put him in B tier. Alberto Del Rio. He had a decent MMA career. It wasn't great. Like, to say he transitioned from WWE, you've got to give him respect. But the thing with Alberto Del Rio, I do believe he's had MMA experience before WWE. I think he has had MMA experience before WWE. Yeah, I'm gonna count Alberto Del Rio. He had a lot of wins. He wasn't kind of not the greatest promotions. He was on a lot of Mexican and Spanish regional scenes. A lot of people know him for the fight he had with Tito Ortiz. He did have a fight with Tito Ortiz in 2019, and obviously he got submitted in the first round. But that's Tito Ortiz. That's one of the best. Well, maybe not one of the best, but it's Tito Ortiz. There's no shame in losing to him. But yeah, he had an MMA career. He went on a win streak from like 2006 to 2010. So you got to give it to Alberto Del Rio. Listen, he wasn't necessarily the most successful MMA fighter, but he didn't have a terrible career. I'm going to put him as a B tier. Would he have ever made it to a promotion like the UFC? No, he wouldn't, right? He lost to an old Tito Ortiz. He wouldn't have made it to the UFC. But did he have an absolutely terrible MMA career? Did he have this career that everyone mocks him for? He didn't. He had a decent career, wasn't great, wasn't terrible. So I'm going to put him in B tier. It was in the middle. Yeah, respectable for a WWE wrestler, to be fair. So I'm going to put Alberto Del Rio in B tier. He had a decent career, wasn't terrible, wasn't great, but it was decent. Anyway, we move on to one that a lot of people are aware of. Not Jack Swagger. I'll do Jack Swagger. I'll put Jack Swagger in B tier as well. I'll put Jack Swagger in B tier. He's got an MMA record of 3 wins and 0 losses, so he is undefeated. I'm not sure if he's still fighting because his last fight was in 2020, but he's in Bellator, and Bellator is a very respectable kind of promotion to get wins in. And I know a lot of people are going to mock Bellator, is it even a promotion anymore? Is it getting shut down? But to say you're a WWE wrestler with very little wrestling experience and you've transitioned to Bellator, which is one of the best MMA promotions there are, you've got to respect it. He's undefeated in Bellator. Did he fight bums? Yes, but listen, I'm going to put him in B tier. He's managed to make it to Bellator. He finished 2 of his fights as well. Yeah, and he won his last fight in 2020 by a split decision, so you've got to give it to him. Jack Swagger's had a pretty decent career. His grappling actually looked decent as well. If he worked on striking, his grappling actually looked... Well, his grappling, yeah, it actually looked decent, so... Yeah, you've got to give it to Jack Swagger. I'm not sure if he's still fighting. I think he might have gone back to wrestling again. I'm not sure if he's still doing MMA, but yeah, 3-0, you can't hate him. I mean, Batista's got 1-0. Jack Swagger's got 3-0 in Bellator, so I've got to put him one up against Batista. Did he go on this insane UFC run like Brock Lesnar? No, he didn't, but did he have a respectable career? And did he actually look decent as well? He actually had decent grappling. I'm going to give it to him, man. I'm going to give it to him. His grappling actually looked decent. His ground and pound as well. Obviously, he's got wrestling experience from WWE, but still, I'm going to put Jack Swagger, or Jack Hager, whatever you want to call him. I'm going to put him in B tier. Had a decent career, only had 4 fights. I think, he had 4 fights because one of them was a no contest, I believe. But either way, Jack Swagger, respectable career. And then we're going to go to one of the GOATs, CM Punk. Now, as much as we want to call him the GOAT, he's got to be D tier. I mean, CM Punk was one of the most entertaining WWE wrestlers there were, right? He was one of the most entertaining. There was so much animosity about his return. And he joins the UFC. And he has probably one of the most memorable UFC careers, I guess you can say. Because he got absolutely flamed for it. I'm going to be honest, it kind of ruined his career. Like, he would have still been viewed as this kind of like badass WWE wrestler if he never joined the UFC, because that kind of ruined him. He obviously saw what Brock Lesnar did going on to become champion, and he tried replicating it himself. I don't know what his stance were either. He fought like a teenage boy. I mean, he was built like a teenage boy. I don't know how he was in the welterweight division. He looked like he was in the bantamweight division, but either way, yeah, he had the fight. Obviously, he had his debut fight. Got smoked, got taken down, ground and pounded and finished and dominated. Then he went on to fight Mike Jackson. Mike Jackson is not a respect. Like, Mike Jackson was one of the easiest opponents you could have given him. Mike Jackson is essentially just some cameraman who's got a little bit of kickboxing experience, so he's managed to get funded into the UFC. And he got beaten fair and square by, what's his name, Mike Jackson. He didn't get dominated. There was times when he took Mike Jackson down, and there were times when he was winning points and collecting points, unlike his first fight. But either way, he just got remembered for being the clown from WWE who tried UFC. Like, it's kind of like, it was kind of a warning to WWE wrestlers that if you want to keep on joining the UFC, this is what happens. Had a very unsuccessful MMA career, but I mean, at least he gave it a go. But it's got to be in D tier because he did get mocked for it. Like, if you're going to get mocked for having an MMA career, it's not the best career. So I'm going to put him in D tier. Then we're going to go with Ken Shamrock. I'm going to put him in A tier. I'm going to put Ken Shamrock in A tier. I think he might... I don't know what came first. I don't know if it was MMA or WWE, because he was back in the day. He was back in the day with his MMA career. He was in ages ago. But, yeah, he was one of the oldest in UFC, obviously. He literally joined the UFC back in the 1990s. He was one of the first UFC fighters, so that's a respectable thing from Ken Shamrock. But, yeah, you got to give it to him, man. You gotta give it to him. Had a pretty decent career. He was fighting back when they were doing like the UFC names, like the Clash of Titans and Return of the Beast. Back when the UFC were named, that he actually fought on UFC 1. He actually fought on UFC 1 as well. Yeah, he had an alright career back in the day. I mean, it was never amazing. His MMA record's 28 and 17. So, I mean, he's got 28 wins in MMA. He's got 28 wins in MMA. Yes, he lost 17 twice. Yes, he lost 17 times. Did he lose? Did he go on a bit of a losing streak? Yes. But still, the fact that he was back in the day UFC as well, fought for titles as well. He actually managed to fight for titles as well. So you got to. I'm not going to talk too much because he was back in the day. It's kind of hard to rank someone who fought back in the 1990 era of UFC. Literally fought on the first ever UFC event, so it's kind of hard to rank how it were back when everyone was roided up and there was hair pulling and groin shots allowed. So I'll put him in A tier though. Fairly respectable. Fought back in the day. I'm going to give it to him, man. And then finally, we've got Bobby Lashley. I'll put Bobby Lashley in. I might put him in A tier as well. Bobby Lashley's not had the worst MMA career. Was he absolutely roided up in every single one of his fights? Yes. But listen, his MMA record's 15-2. That's probably one of the best records out of everyone on this list. And on top of that, he fought in Bellator and got so many wins in Bellator. He's got so many wins in Bellator. He hasn't fought since 2016, and I don't expect him to come back because he's probably getting paid way more in WWE, and it's a lot safer for him. But he had a very successful Bellator record. In fact, he finished every single fight in Bellator. He managed to finish every single one of his fights. He had a very successful MMA. 15-2 is very respectable, and he got wins on Strikeforce as well. But yeah, only ever lost twice. But yeah, 15-2 in an MMA and got so many wins on Bellator. You've got to give it to him. I think out of, besides maybe Brock Lesnar and obviously other people like Ronda Rousey, I think he's had one of the most successful MMA careers. Yes, he was absolutely roided up, but still, I'm going to give it to Bobby Lashley. So yeah, that is my list. That's my list of WWE wrestlers in a tier list who transitioned to MMA. Bit of a weird one today, but yeah, that's my list. So I've got CM Punk in D tier, Brock Lesnar in S tier, and obviously a couple other people. Please let me know if I missed anyone, any WWE wrestlers who tried to go into MMA. But yeah, thanks for watching.